Report 2.1 shows the trended promotion features by suppliers and by retailers. So how this report can be useful to you is it allows you to make comparison for the share of promotion across different retailers for the selected categories, how your own promotions are split across different brands, the frequency of your promotions versus that of the competitors, and lastly, how the frequency and trend of your promotions have affected the sales contribution. So to start off, we'll go through the selections first. So the first selection you can make is for markets. So under market, you'll be able to see West Malaysia, Sabah, and also Sarawak. So West Malaysia here refers to the promotions captured in Peninsular Malaysia. Sabah refers to the promotions that we're tracking in Kota Kinabalu, and Sarawak refers to the promotions that we're tracking in Kuching. If you are currently subscribed to East Malaysia data, you will have the option of selecting Sabah and Sarawak under markets. Otherwise, you'll only be able to see West Malaysia data. Under date range, please keep in mind that you can only choose up to 24 months of data or 2 years of data. If you choose more than 2 years of data, this error message will appear at the bottom and you'll have to redo your selection. So for the purpose of this example, we'll be looking into the whole year of 2019 data. Under sources, you can see that it's split into all sources and all regional data. So under sources, there's mailers, newspapers, and in-store. Under regional data, there's only mailer regional and newspaper regional. Mailer here refers to the leaflets published by the retailers. Newspapers refers to the press ads that we see in the newspapers that we're currently tracking. In-store here refers to the promotions shown on the POSMs that are available in the convenience stores. The difference between all sources and regional data is that all sources refers to the promotions that is applicable to all stores of selected retailers. For example, when Giant publishes its mailers, it's for all Giant stores in West Malaysia. Whereas for regional data, a good example would be Billion, where when they publish a mailer or a leaflet, they will list down the stores where this promotion is applicable at the last page. So for now, we'll choose mailer newspapers first, and we'll look more into in-store later on. Under promo type, we'll have normal promotions, range promotions, and by X3Y. These are the 3 different types of promotions that we're currently tracking. By X3Y is something that we're only tracking in-store, in convenience stores, and it refers to promotions where the price is not stated anywhere on the POSM or on the poster. Normal promotion here refers to anything with the product description and the price, while range promotion refers to when instead of a price, a percentage discount or a price range is given for the product. So as we've selected mailer and newspaper as our sources, under promo types, I'll be choosing normal promotions and range promotions. Under rank, you'll be able to see top 5, top 10, top 25, and all. So this refers to how much of the data you'd like to see, whether you like to see top 5, top 10, or even all. I'll explain more on this when the report is generated, but for now, we'll keep to top 5 first. Under categories, you can click on it and click further on the drop-down to look for the categories that you'd like to see. Otherwise, you can also just type in the categories that you'd like to see. So let's say we're using biscuits for this example. So I can just type in biscuits and click on it straight away. Retailers are separated into convenience stores, hypermarket, pharmacies, and supermarket. Similar to categories, you can either choose to click on the drop-down to look for the retailers that you like to see. Otherwise, you can click on the channel itself and it will select all retailers in that channel for you. So for now, let's just stick to hyper and super. The suppliers listed here is based on the category that you selected. So as we've selected biscuits, the suppliers listed here is only suppliers for biscuits. So you can choose to look for the suppliers that you'd like to see, or if you'd like to see all suppliers, you can just click on all suppliers here. Next is brands. So brands is based on the supplier selection. So as we've chosen all suppliers for biscuits, what is listed here currently is all brands for biscuits. So again, you can look for the brands that you like to see. Otherwise, if you like to see all brands, you can click on all brands here. Next is the column display order. So this decides how the data will be displayed in the report that you generate. This report can show you the data based on the retailers, suppliers, or brands. And you can actually change the order in which it's displayed, meaning that right now what's selected is supplier and retailers. So when the report is generated, you'll see the data by supplier and then by retailers. You can also choose to include brands if you like to see it broken down further. So for this example, let's say we'll go through it by retailers, suppliers, and then brands. And then lastly is group by. So group by here refers to how the data is displayed as well, but in the sense of the time period. Previously, we've chosen the whole year of 2019 as the date range for this report. So month and week here refers to whether you want the data to be displayed by months for 2019 or by weeks for 2019. So for now, we'll click on months first and we can make further modifications later on. Save button here allows you to save the selections you've made so far. So what this means is the next time you come into this report, the next time you come into this report, you don't need to redo the entire selection. It will appear as you selected right now. If you like to redo the entire selection after you've clicked save, then you can just hit reset here and everything will be cleared off to the default. If you're happy with the selection, you can click on update. Please keep in mind that the loading time is very much dependent on the selections that you've made, which means the larger the selection that you've made, the longer time it will take for the report to generate. And of course, it's also dependent on how strong your internet connection is at the moment. So once the report is generated, this is what it will look like. As I mentioned before, the rank selection will limit the data that is being shown on the report. So if you remember, for retailers, we've chosen hyper and super. But as you can see, only 5 retailers are being displayed here. So what this means is, among all those hypermarkets and supermarkets, these 5 had the most promotions for biscuits throughout 2019. And here you can see a drop down. So if you click on it, the first thing you'll see is normal and range, which refers to the type of promotions. And if you hover your cursor over these numbers, the blue numbers here, you can see that it changes into a hand cursor. So what this means is you can actually click on the data. This table will pop out. So this table is basically a further explanation on what the data is. So it will list out the market, which is West Malaysia or Sabah or Sarawak, the subcategory, source, whether it's mailer, newspaper or in-store, the brands, product name, non-promo price, and PWP price, the promotion mechanic and the premium description, the retailers, start date and also end date. And if you like to do further analysis on this data, you can also click export to Excel and go through the data in Excel format. From the table that is generated, you can also choose to click on the feature you're interested in. So for example, here I've chosen the range promotion. So if I click on it, it will actually bring me to the page that shows that there is range promotion for this item. Once the image is loaded, you can choose to keep it as reference, and all you need to do is right click and save the image. If you remember, under column display order, we selected how we'd like the data to be displayed. So our selection was retailer, supplier, and then brand. So going back to this, if you click on the drop down further, it will display to you the different suppliers. And if you click on the supplier itself, it will display to you the brands. So this follows what we've selected. The retailers, followed by suppliers, followed by brands. And these promotions are split into different types of promotion, which is the normal promotions and the range promotions that we selected. Now on to the functions. One of the first functions is that you'll be able to see how the share of promotions is split for each suppliers across different retailers. So in order to see that more easily, we'll go back to the selection box. So retailers, let's say we just choose the top 5 retailers as displayed here. So for this, we'll choose Giant, the store, Pacific, Aeon Big, and TF Value Mart. Under suppliers, we'll choose Mondelez, Munchies, Julie's, and Hapseng. Since we've made changes to the supplier selection, we also have to make changes to the brand selection. So just clear all, and you'll see that it's only the selected suppliers brands that's listed here. So from here, we'll just choose all brands. And under group by, instead of by month, we'll choose to see it by week instead. So if you're okay with this selection, click on update. If you like to see more of the data and less of the selection box, or if you feel that you don't need the selection box any longer, you can click on this arrow here and it will shrink the selection box for you, so you can only focus on the report. So as you can see right now, it's still showing it by retailers and then suppliers and then brands, and that's because just now we've missed out on the order of the report. So we can go back here and choose to show it by suppliers, by retailers instead. Okay, so you can see that this has changed. Right now the promotions are showing by the suppliers, followed by the type of promotions, and then followed by the retailers itself. So you can use Julie's, for example. So how Julie's promotions are split across different retailers is that most of their promotions are actually spotted at the store and Pacific, followed by TF Value Mart, Giant, and Aeon Big. Also, please keep in mind that for this report, we've only selected the top 5 retailers. So if we selected all retailers instead, the order of the suppliers here may be changed. We'll look into Mondelez. So for Mondelez promotions, it's mainly being promoted at Giant, followed by Aeon Big, the store, Pacific, and TF Value Mart. So if you maximize this table a bit here, what you can see is that Julie's, their focus is the store and Pacific, while TF Value Mart, Giant, and Aeon Big has about 60 promotion each throughout 2019. However, for Mondelez, a large part of their promotions is spotted at Giant at 120, whereas the other retailers, Aeon Big, the store, Pacific, and TF, has about 60 promotions each throughout 2019. So you can see where each different supplier is focusing on their promotions. So for example, if you are Mondelez, you can see that Giant promotions is double that of the other top retailers. So maybe we can look into reducing the promotions at Giant and maybe shifting our resources into doing promotions at other retailers. The next thing we can look into is the split of promotions between our own brands. So for this, I'll change the column display order again. So we'll change it to suppliers, by brands, and then by retailers. And click on update. Alright, so let's use Mondelez as the example again. For Mondelez, most of the promotions spotted is for Jacobs, followed by Chips More, Oreo, Tiger, and minimal promotions for Belvita and Kraft. So what we can gather from here is that Mondelez is prioritizing their crackers above all the other types of biscuits. So if we compare it to other suppliers, Hapsang is naturally only promoting crackers. Munchworld Munchies here refers to their Munchies crackers. So you can see that Munchworld, similar to Mondelez, is also prioritizing crackers promotions above all the other different brands. So we can use this to compare our own promotions frequency and trend versus that of our competitors. Now if we click on the drop down for Jacobs, it will list out the different retailers and how often we've had promotions there. And we can use this to compare the frequency of our own promotions versus that of our competitors, which is Munchies. So if we just look into Giant, for Jacobs, we've had promotions at Giant nearly every other week throughout 2019, and similarly so does Munchies. And you can see that these promotions overlap. So seeing this trend, we can go back to the sales data that we have. So during the weeks where both Munchies and Jacobs had promotions for crackers in Giants, was the sales contribution affected by this? And if it was, who was more affected, whether it was Munchies with their promotions or Jacobs with ours? And lastly, we can also look into the sales contribution itself. So as I mentioned, our promotions at Giant are usually done every other week. However, in these 2 weeks here, we've had back-to-back promotions. So in the first one, we've had promotions for the Jacobs multi-pack, value pack, and also tin. And the following week, we've had the promotions for the Jacobs value pack again. So from here, we can probably look into the sales contribution again to see how doing these back-to-back type of promotions has affected the sales. Like for this one, the value pack and the multi-pack is promoted in the same mailer, whereas the tin cracker is promoted during the weekend press ads, as observed in the sources here. So since we've published the mailer and we have promoted the value pack and also the multi-pack, did promoting the tin during the weekend cause an uplift in sales, or did it not make much changes because people have already stocked up on the value pack and also multi-pack? And again, doing back-to-back promotions, if there was an uplift caused by the promotions that we've had in this week, did it cause a similar uplift in the following week? Or was there minimal changes to the sales contribution since the promotion is overlapped, have already stocked up on crackers during the previous week? So from this, you can see how you can use this report to relate back to your sales data to see how promotions and sales contributions are related. Lastly, we'll be looking into the in-store promotions as well as the buy X free Y type of promotions. In order to do that, we'll be redoing our selection. So under sources, instead of mailer and newspaper, we'll look into in-store promotions. Include buy X free Y under the promotions type. For rank, we'll choose all instead of top 5. Under categories, instead of looking at biscuits, we'll be looking at snacks instead. And as we're looking at in-store promotions instead of mailer and newspaper, then CVS has to be included in the retailer selection. Also, since we've changed the categories, the supplier also needs to be reselected. So from here, we'll choose all suppliers, all brands, and instead of grouping it by week, for this report, we'll be grouping it by month. Alright, to explain more on what buy X free Y is, we'll be looking into PepsiCo promotions. So under Lay's, PepsiCo promotions are split between the normal promotions and the buy X free Y. So normal promotions is anything with the product description and a price as seen here. whereas by X 3Y refers to the type of promotions shown here. So instead of the price, what you'll get is the product name and the premium description. So if you focus on the promotion seen here, buy 1 lace backpack, free 1 lace Christmas tote bag. So no price is given there. The buy X refers to the buy 1 lace backpack, while the free Y refers to the tote bag provided. So aside from seeing the frequency and the trend of the promotions, this report can also be used to see the type of promotions that they are using. So just to summarize this report again, Report 2.1 can be useful to you if you are trying to compare the share of promotions across different retailers, the split of the promotions between your own brands, how the frequency of your promotions is doing compared to your competitors, and lastly, how the frequency and the trend of your own promotions has affected the sales contribution